At the end of the last video, we worked a problem about which baseball team had a relatively better run producing season, and the answer was the team with the higher z-score. And if you recall, I said that's not always the case. You have to take the context of the problem into account. So, for example, in a college fitness class, men and women are expected to run 400 meters. The average time for men is 68 seconds with a standard deviation of 5 seconds, and the average time for women is 71 seconds with a standard deviation of 6 seconds. If Jennifer runs 400 meters in 67 seconds and Greg runs the 400 meters in 66 seconds, who had the relatively faster time? Well, again, we're going to compare Jennifer's speed to the rest of the women and Greg's speed to the rest of the men because they're in two separate groups. But to be able to compare them to each other relative to their groups, we have to change them into z-scores. So let's do that for Jennifer first. So for Jennifer, remember a z-score is the data value minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. So Jennifer ran it in 400 seconds. The mean for women, remember average is the word that we use frequently for mean. So that's not 68 seconds, that's the men's. 71 seconds for, I'm all messed up, aren't I? She ran the 400 meters in 67 seconds. The mean for women is 71 seconds with a standard deviation of 6. If you put that in your calculator, 67 minus 71 gives us negative 4 over 6, which is negative 0.67. Now let's do Greg's. So for Greg, it's the same thing. His speed, his time minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. So Greg ran it in 66 seconds. The average for men is 68. And the standard deviation is 5 seconds. So that gives us a negative 2 over 5. Or negative 0.4. So if we put those on our graph, remember the mean is a z-score of 0. And then we have 1, 2, 3, and going the other way, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Jennifer is about right there. And Greg is about right here. So who was relatively faster? Well, faster means further below 0. So Jennifer had the relatively faster time because she was further below the mean. In other words, her z-score was lower. So remember the last time it was better to have a bigger z-score. This time it's better to have a smaller or more negative z-score. I'll end this video here because that ends the topic of z-scores, at least in terms of doing problems like that. And in the next video, we'll talk about percentiles.